Local story this afternoon. A 15-year-old boy is charged with shooting and killing a mail carrier.
Prosecutors say the teen later returned to the crime scene. WGN's Angelica Sanchez is live outside the juvenile courthouse with these disturbing details. Angelica?
That's why prosecutors say that the teen's cell phone shows that he was following the victim's delivery route prior to the shooting. This comes as unionized postal workers across the country are demanding more be done for the safety of employees. A 15-year-old boy stands in front of a judge, now charged with first-degree murder. He's accused of fatally shooting 48-year-old USPS letter carrier Octavia Redmond back in July. Prosecutors say the boy was dressed in all black the day of the shooting and that he went to the home of a witness to change his shoes. His cell phone shows he was texting someone Redmond's delivery route and location before getting out of a stolen white Durango to shoot her multiple times. The shooting was captured on home surveillance.
Right now, we're calling on action for safety, more safety, protection for letter carriers while we're out here. We should not have to face the difficult task of ever wondering, if I come to work, will I return home to my family?
This arrest comes as American Postal Worker Union members across the country are calling attention to working conditions. At a rally in Roseland, where Redmond served as an employee, they spoke on the need for increased safety measures, including the need for postal police officers to follow employees while they are out making deliveries.
It is sad that we are facing attacks. Since 2020, there's been over 2,000 attacks on postal employees. Over 150 since 2022 in the Chicago district alone, resulting in the death of Octavia Redmond, Sister Redmond, and about 4 other people across the country.
Meantime, the judge overseeing the teen's case says he was out on juvenile release at the time of the crime for an attempted burglary in February. A warrant had been issued for him in May because he could not be located. The teen was arrested by U.S. Marshals in Cedar, Iowa on that outstanding warrant. We learned the gun used in the shooting has already been connected to a separate battery case. The teen's father was present via Zoom, telling the judge, quote, "He just doesn't stay put." When the teen started crying in court, the judge asked why, but the teen didn't answer. Now, the teen is being held in custody. The victim's family was here present in court, but declined to comment. The teen will be back in court in November for a status hearing. Reporting live outside the juvenile courthouse, Angelica Sanchez, WGN News.
All right, thank you, Angelica.
All right, so we were just talking about this whole issue of police brutality, police violence committed against multiple Americans, but especially African Americans. Yet, our next guest, Philip Clay with the Project 21, claims that black media doesn't talk about a major issue like black-on-black crime. So, really, I thought that'd be real interesting. So he joins us right now. So, Philip, glad to have you here. So, how do you ascertain we don't discuss the issue of black-on-black crime?
Well, good evening, Roland, and thanks for having me on, and congratulations on your nomination for the NAACP award. So for me personally, I'd like to take the conservative out of this and really just talk to you as a young black male. From where I sit in Indiana, which has a very high crime rate when it comes to black Americans, I don't see the same outrage and instances of black on blacks, young black teens killing black teens, as I do when I see 5 black officers beating and killing Tyree Nichols in tragedy. Or in instances like you were just talking about earlier in Mississippi, or in the George Floyd instances. To me, the article that I wrote and the reason I'm on your show is because I feel that until we as a community can start to rally together and say no more, we can't progress. My article intends to say that we need to, as a community, come together and stop blaming police, just blaming police, and we need to stand together, and we need to progress, and we need to make things happen.
What is the, so you say you're there in Indiana. What is the white-on-white crime rate in Indiana?
You know, rolling off the top of my head, I don't know that figure for you.
So I'm trying to understand, if you only mentioning black-on-black crime, how do you not mention white-on-white crime? Because if we're talking about crime in this country, we've seen an explosion in the last several years of crime in rural America that doesn't involve black people.
Right. Although 89% of black people are killing other black people. There was an article, unfortunately I can't share my screen like you can.
Right, but the reality is, if you look at actually crime in America, it typically happens where people live. So typically, if you're black, crime is being committed by someone black, and if you're white, crime is being committed by somebody white. So why is it that no one ever mentions white on white crime? Why is it the pathology always black on black crime?
Well, I think white on white crime is mentioned. I think it is.
No, it's not. It's that phrase is never even used. It's literally never even used.
So then what's it called, Roland?
Oh, it's called, first of all, they just say crime. But what you have is you have folks who say black on black crime. So again, what I'm saying is, why
a population that's disproportionately affected. It is a big thing, and
no. I'm not saying it's not a big thing, but the reality is we do focus on what is the underlying issue of crime. So what is that? What's the underlying issue of crime?
Please tell me. Please tell me.
You don't know?
No, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
No, first of all, if you're going to write about how we should be focusing on crime, then you might want to be talking about what is the underlying issue of crime. John Hope Bryant talks all the time that you've never seen a riot in a community where the credit score is 700 or higher. I was just in Wichita, Kansas, the MLK event, and the former police chief of Philadelphia, the police chief of Wichita who came from Philadelphia, we were discussing this, and the reality is you can track crime rates in neighborhoods based upon economic status. And so if you want to address, so when you say we don't address the issue of crime, we do, because on this show, we consistently are talking about economics. We're talking about education. We're talking about access to capital. We're talking about housing. We're talking about all of those issues. Those are the fundamental underpinnings of crime in America.
Right. So I'm not sure if you read the article or not, but at the end of it, it does say that it's a community issue. We as a community have to fix this.
Welcome back to Breakdown Friday. Joseph Ward, Patrick Irvin, Professor Carl Tone Jones. And we're here. This is going to be two-pronged breakdown. We're here looking at the situation where the 15-year-old boy executes the black postal worker. But we're also looking at the topic of crime in the black community. I'm not going to say black on black crime, but crime in the black community, black people committing crimes against other black people. We want to examine that and look further into that. In this relation to the video of the young black 15-year-old boy executing the black female postal worker. But before we get deep into this, make sure you like this video. Make sure you comment, subscribe, share this video. FedLifeStation.com. FedLifeStation.com. Immediately following this, make sure you check it out. ThePax.org. Make sure you check it out. Check out OnTheShoulders1.com, the website. Support the Cash App, Joseph Ward 841, $ Joseph Ward 841. Other links to support are in the description. Remember, when you support this platform, you're supporting a group of children in Tallahassee who's a part of my Black History School. You're supporting everything that we have going on here at On the Shoulders of Giants. So appreciate all y'all support. But starting off with the video of the 15-year-old boy in Chicago who is I guess he's been convicted by now for the execution of the black postal worker, because I saw several videos surrounding this, and I have so many questions. And so I thought this would be the perfect place to ask the questions, but I know I'm not the only one that have questions. So I want to dive into that piece and then dive into the crime in the black community issue. So PC, man, when you see this video, when you hear the content in the video about the 15-year-old boy and the black postal worker, like, what were your thoughts when you saw this about the video, and like just what questions are on your mind? Because I got questions. I'm wondering, do you got questions too?
Yeah, well, this wasn't random. You know,
sure wasn't.
You know what I'm saying? They stalked this woman. And I say they because it wasn't just the young dude that shot her. You know, he had a getaway driver. He hopped into the back seat of that truck.
He had a place to change his shoes.
Place to change. They said a witness gave him some shoes. So, you know, one of the things. So, what was she involved in, or what was she connected to? And I'm not even saying it's her, because sometimes it could be, you know, especially with the with the gang activity nowadays, it could have been one of her children, and
Yeah.
they could
Yeah.
have figured this is how I'm going to get somebody back. So,
So many
you know,
questions.
yeah, there's a lot of questions concerning that in regards to that particular incident. That young man just threw his life away, and that's probably why he was crying in the courtroom that day, because it's all flying good until you get caught. Then things done change. So, one of the things that I thought about in regards to just that criminal activity in our community is that the stop snitching, the don't snitch, the stop snitching atmosphere is one that is projected out of fear more than anything else. And the notion that we don't tell on those who are predators in our community because we're trying to be cool. No. Most people are afraid because there's not been any police protection for when you come forward as a witness to a crime that happened in our community. In fact, there are many times where the information has been leaked to the actual witness, and then you have a lot of witness intimidation. Sometimes the witnesses are harmed. Sometimes they're eliminated based on the lack of protection for them actually speaking up and coming forth. Now, that's also a community issue, because as a community, we should be able to protect those who can't protect themselves. And the whole notion behind snitching has been perverted over the last several decades. So what it used to be is if you and me and Pat went out allegedly, or we just and this is not us doing anything. I'm just saying, and we commit a crime. If one of us decides to tell on the others, that's a snitch. But say we don't know each other, and Joe, you and I commit a crime, and Pat witnesses it, and he tells what he saw. That's not a snitch. That's an innocent bystander. That's a member of the community, and it's supposed to be off limits according to the old street code. Now, that whole concept now has been changed to make predators feel safe, to protect the predators. And I've seen it a lot on social media where you'll have somebody who is not a part of something, but they may go and testify in court and they're automatically labeled a snitch by people in the comment section. And I take great offense to that, because most of the people in the comment section, they didn't jump off the porch. They don't even know what it's like to be in those circumstances and situations to instigate situations such as that, to instigate circumstances of violence and things of that nature that happen to people who are living in these communities, who are actually going through the day and day fires in their on their blocks where they can't even play in their backyard because a bullet might come whizzing through and injuring their children or harming their children. Old elders now can't even sit on the front porch because of or the stoop and just enjoy a beautiful day because of what might happen around the corner. So what we have is a generation, an era of weak men and weak women, because weak men and out of control women. I'll say that, because there was a time when men would make sure they would clear the corner, and it wouldn't be a whole lot of ruckus. All the so-called thugs or whatever. Okay, Mr. Johnson, I'm sorry. They wouldn't even. There was a time when I was growing up, if somebody was smoking a joint, because that's what it was when blunts were back then, was joints. If somebody was smoking a joint and an elder walked up, they would put the joint behind their back. Now everybody know they're smoking it, but respectfully, they would put it out of the eyesight, out of the view of the elder walking up and down the block. If they were drinking, they would do the same thing with with the liquor. Nowadays, it's so twisted that we have people walking up and down the street, ripping up the tobacco, dumping it in front of somebody's house,
Right.
and rolling the weed, rolling the blunt in the presence of the elders. In Philadelphia, you can't walk 5 feet without smelling the blunt, without smelling marijuana in Philadelphia. Now, so I'm gonna stop there. I'm gonna land my plane there because I can go on forever.
You know, I want to come back to where you was going with that. So, you know, I wrote something down so I can come back because I want to come back to that because that's going to be part of what we get to a bit later because I do want to address what you were saying because you're making some key points and some important points about, you know, what points that lead into why the community is, why Black communities are the way they are across the United States, but also why an environment would be like people would exist in an environment where we would have the incident happening, what we're talking about this 15-year-old boy executing this woman, you know. So it's a lot of factors that go into how Black communities have degraded over time. So, but Pat, man, let's go ahead and jump up in this thing, man. You seen this first time seeing this clip. What are your thoughts on this crime and just what questions do you have?
Yeah, as far as the video of the postal situation where somebody went postal on the postals,
yeah,
I don't know. I just got a lot of questions, same as I'm sure everybody else. It's kind of hard to jump to conclusions.
Right.
The young man just got out the car and aired it out.
No, he stalked her.
Yeah, they say he was following her. They kind of knew the route. But he knew the route.
So why was he stalking her?
But see that's the thing. We don't know that yet. That information.
Do we know, like, so what do we know? Are they related? Like,
we don't. So because I've looked at several videos, and as far as I know, all they know is he knew the lady's route. He had other people helping him, and he was able to stalk her and execute her.
So
how was she related? I don't know yet.
So it wasn't just him by himself, because I heard it, but I want to make sure.
Right.
So there was a group of people that was working in cahoots.
Right. It was at least two other people. It was at least 2 other people working with him to be able to make this happen.
Gang initiation or something? Like,
could be. But one important factor is he lives with his father. There are a couple important factors. He lives with his father, because that's what they was getting at. His father said he just don't stay put. He don't just stay in one place. And he had a warrant for his arrest in Iowa. He lives in Chicago, but has a warrant for his arrest in Iowa. But he lives with his father, and his father says he just don't stay put.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot going on there. Like that, like it's too, like, for me, I'm not one to make assumptions when everything is there. I can't even say what it looks like. My first thought is a question, and so is the next 99.
Mm-hmm.
So I really don't have nothing for that, because I just don't know a lot about what's going on. And it's so many different ways you could take that. And I do want to, because I know some of my students have started listening to these shows.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I think it's important that everybody take time to, and we say this all the time, take time to collect the facts.
Yeah.
Don't rush into another mistake. So, yeah, I don't, like I said, all I got flowing through my mind right now is questions, like a bunch of them. I don't even know. I have no information to process it, because everything they said just led to a bunch of questions.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because clearly he broke down crying in the courtroom after sentencing because, you know, reality hit him. He's still 15 years old. And one of the questions I have is for the father, like, what's going on within your household that you have a 15 that is living a lifestyle like this?
And see, that's a good question. The thing that comes to me is one of the things we gotta accept. It's a lesson I've learned. Society has its part. You could be the best parent in the world,
Right.
but society has an outsized influence. One of the things that's interesting is they found that a child growing up in a single parent household, say a child growing up in a single parent mother led household, but that lives in the community where the average household in that community has fathers, has outcomes similar to those where their children of the children that have fathers.
Especially if she involves or allows those fathers to father
Right.
that
So
child.
we're talking about collective outcomes where, just by moving a child into a community where these other things are present. So, I would look at it and I would say, all right, yeah, I do have questions about what the dad was doing, but I have even more questions about the environment. What neighborhood did the
Right.
kid grow up in?
Right. Well, that's what we're going to get into. What we want to get into as the conversation progresses, as we move this forward, because that's what Roland Martin was hitting on in the clip with the guy, Philip
Roland
Clay.
Martin bullied that kid.
Of course he did. Of course he did.
Yeah, I didn't like that. Excuse me.
It's Roland, but it's Roland Martin. So I gotta, I like to throw some gas on the fire. So sometimes,
Yeah, I ain't like that.
So, but Roland Martin did hit on some points of talking about impoverished environments and the crime rates in impoverished environments. And environment does matter, hence the video from Monday, we're talking, and Dr. Amos Wilson hitting on how just the overall environmental white supremacy matters, but also the environmental white supremacy coupled with living in an impoverished high crime environment. Like poverty, we know there's a correlation between poverty and crime. We already know that. So,
well, I think one of the things too to consider, and I say or not, I gotta try to get better with that. But one of the things that I noticed is the lack of emphasis on anything past the 15-year-old's, actions. They made this whole story about protecting postal workers.
Yeah.
So when you talk about the outrage that was presented, excuse me, we don't know. We really don't know unless here we go again. Unless we go to social media and there's some social media reaction to it. But I think the climate, you bring up a good point. The climate that these children are growing up in the cities, and we know that Chicago is a gangland city, so that environment itself is something that, as a parent, you don't understand. Most people don't understand. People who have never been parents, or people who don't work around young people, they don't really understand the power of peer pressure.
Right.
Social compliance is strong. It's strong with adults. So you can only imagine what it's like with children who have not learned the ability of discernment, to have discernment, judgment calls. And then what happens if I don't do this? What happens if I don't acclimate to my climate? What happens to me then? I'm isolated. I could be, a victim to all this. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of things that need to be explored. And this is why I often say, man, we don't really get it as a community on how to deal with stuff like this. You don't deal with it in terms of the ways we've been dealing with it. you need a whole you need a whole sort of concept around addressing problems. You need problem solving committees. In other words, you need think tanks, because what's happening in one part of one city, you go to left of there, and there's a totally different idea about how to handle that situation based on what people think they know. And think tanks are how you ascertain all the variables, and then you can make the best. You could talk about, if you do this, this is going to be your outcome. This is your projected outcome. And we keep saying it, but I don't know if people really want to invest in it. But it's something that would save the future generations if we did. But I don't think people really care.
Well, some you hit on earlier. You're talking about the community, the environment, the actual neighbors in the neighborhood that are around these families, that are surrounding these children. So if black people,
Well, just real quick, I'll give you an example. In 1996, 1995, one of my little cousins was right here in North Philly. One of the witnesses actually saw it. My bad. Sorry. One of the witnesses actually saw it, testified, and the next day, not even the next day, later on that day, somebody was trying to break into his house,
right,
and do harm to him. There's no mechanisms in place in our community to protect those who actually do want to get some of these cats off the street, because some of these cats need to be off the streets, and not even for everybody else, for their own good. Their lives will be extended.
Right. But even in that vein, that means our issues are at least twofold when we're talking about environmental. For one, being in an environment of white supremacy, but two, being in an environment where we've adopted violent behaviors against ourselves because of the way we view ourselves and the way we exist within the communities, individualistic mindsets, tribalistic mindsets. We look at like the inferiority complex, the low collective self-esteem. If this young man can look at this black postal worker as somebody to easily be eliminated, how did he see himself? And of course, the environment fostered that.
I think one of the challenges, and we'll have to get into levels of thinking later, not this episode, I mean like in a later show, but the black community needs to be at least on a level 5 to solve its challenges, and we're at a level 2 or 3. And you see it going even further back into like the narrative that was presented by the young man in the Roland Martin show and Roland Martin's response to it. Like that was a perfect opportunity for Roland Martin to not attack and do what he did. Like you could tell the young man really, even at a point, he like it was almost like he just admitted, I messed up. I shouldn't have came. You know what? You just tell me what you think it is.
I mean, but that's how you treat people when you ain't got no neck.
But I think the problem with all of these discussions is that they're frequently comparing apples to oranges.
Right.
You
can't
get
into it.
Yeah, you can't compare what we do when things are happening internally to what we do when somebody brings things to us. The two totally separate arguments. The tool set you use is different. You don't protest internal issues. Like the mere fact of protesting is like, I need to make my voice heard. Well, the reason I need to make my voice heard is because you're not in my community, so you can't hear me. You know what I'm saying? So the whole nature of the conversation is off. And I think that was an excellent opportunity for Roland Martin to educate the young brother on that, but he chose not to do that. And then it goes into like what PC was saying earlier about how people are learning how to, like, kids now. There's no, that was, and I love the way you did that with the no snitch, the snitching thing, because snitching used to be only for the people that was involved.
Right.
Like if you were civilian, as they called them, you couldn't snitch.
Right.
You were civilian. You don't
Right.
have that capability. It's like everybody saying black people can't be racist. Civilians can't snitch. So, but where is this coming from, right? It's coming from nowadays. It's coming from you. I point to social media. People are learning how to be black
through social media,
reading it on social media. And the problem with that is that you don't know the truth of the person whose comment you're reading. You don't know. So, right, we go back to environment, and now we have to have this whole separate conversation, because now environment is not just physical space and neighborhood. Environment is also digital community.
Right. But to even go further, what you're saying about protesting internally. So I remember years ago here in Tallahassee, because maybe 2-3 years ago, that was like the beginning of, for Tallahassee, a large number of gun violence. You know, and I think for Tallahassee, we're not a big city, but I think we reached over 120 gun fatalities by gun, right? And so what was interesting is there was one particular Saturday where in a community where they have a high prevalence of gun violence, there was a protest going on one street and a shootout going on the other street. And when you're talking about the protest, you made me think about that, but you also made me think about it's the dealing with the symptoms, not the actual illness. And so it's easy to hold rallies. It's easy to protest. It's easy to have events, community events, resource fairs, have people come out, do music festivals, all these different things. Those things are easy, but those things don't work either. And so that's why this part of the conversation is important, because yes, white supremacy is the root cause of all of this, and the continued racism and the continued structuring of our communities to purposely degrade. That is the root cause of all this. But we have adopted the Negro mindset so much that we have also become the problem, and we are becoming a problem to ourselves. We've become a problem to ourselves, but it's on us to rectify not only what we're doing to ourselves, but what they've done to us as far as being able to clean up our environments. And as long as we are continuing to adopt the destructive and harmful behaviors, our communities will continue to degrade. The no snitch thing is more prevalent. It's so out of hand. It's crazy. Like a 15-year-old kills a postal worker and nobody's saying nothing. We're matter of fact, and this is social media too, and it's affected our communities. Our communities have degraded so much that people can see what has happened in a community, see somebody being harmed, and instead of helping that person, they pull their phones out and film it so they can go viral on social media to say, I got this first. Environment, the way our environments continue to be restructured and constructed by the dominant society, and we have like a lot of us just going on autopilot with this, but they're literally reconstructing us as time goes on. And
not a lot of us, damn near all of us. I think because one of the challenges here is, like you was mentioning about protesting, and it makes me think I really need to drop that book, Black Tactics for the Revolution. But you like, there's no thought about the purpose of activities. Everything we do is to raise awareness, and nothing we do does anything with the awareness once it's raised.
is we're reactionary and compensatory.
Yeah, so everything is like we got to get people talking. For what? Because when people talk, they talk. No, that's not how change works. We got to get people got to know about what, so that what, why, what do they need to know? Why do they need to know it? And how is what you're doing helping them know those things? And so we get into these deeper level conversations. Correction. We need to get into these deeper level conversations, but we're not getting into them. And I saw this count. This is part of what burnt me out from community organizing with a lot of people, is because the conversations never got beyond level 1, level 0, even. Like they never got to the point where it's like, okay, people need to know. Well, how do you know they don't know? Well, they don't know because if they knew, this wouldn't be happening. That's not valid. That doesn't. That's not how that
But
works.
I'm sure the Italians knew, and the white people who were in the gangs, the infamous gangs that America fell in love with. I'm sure they understood the effects of the violence and all those things. That they still did it. Like that's not a valid excuse. Like people understand what they're doing now.
Right. And so that's what we get into. Exactly what. Okay. So even if they don't know, we still got to come to this question. Even if we say they don't know, everything you're saying is going to inform them. Great. Now they're informed. What next?
But you still
How do we get
understand.
them to do something?
You still understand that you're taking someone's life.
But we can't even get out of the very first thing people say is we need to throw a rally. For what? Because we need to galvanize the community. For what? That's not an answer.
No, you don't, because they don't look from 3 people who actually work in the community. No, it doesn't. So currently, right now in Tallahassee, right now, I'm a part of a committee where we're looking at to come up with better solutions for dealing with gun violence within the city of Tallahassee. And one of the things that we had to do so far is pull the data and statistics of what's going on. So we looked at the statistics. Black men account for the majority of the gun violence in Tallahassee. So now, what I already know from being a part of event or coalitions that go out to stop gun violence is rallies, events, like we're saying, marches. We're not saying these things because we don't like them. We're saying that they don't work because we've been a part of these things. And in my city, at the height of the rallies, at the height of the marches, at the height of the town halls, at the height of all those, the gun violence rates went up. We're dealing with the symptoms and not the actual illness.
Well, I know here in Philly, they had to start bringing the police to the rallies because during the rallies, all the ops would be in one spot, and they knew where to find them, and they would light those rallies up. So now you can't even have a funeral of somebody that might be a suspected gang member without police detail in this city. You have to go through funerals with metal detectors. So, yeah, I get what you're saying, Joe.
You got to get to the mindsets. We got to change the mindsets. We got to give new opportunities. We got to give new vision, all those different things. You got to stop with the ceremonial stuff. Take the cameras away. Only do things that don't give you recognition.
The problem is, Joe, the majority of people don't know what to do. And when they don't know what to do, they know how to throw a party. And whether you want to call it a rally, whether you want to call it a march, it ends up being a party. You start playing music, you start twerking, all types of stuff happen at these things. They put some balloons in the air, and it becomes a party. And if we don't know how to do one thing, we know how to throw a party.
Like let's say, okay, because somebody was like, well, give us an example of what we should do. All right, simple. Let's say you were a plumber and you live in a community or you work in a community. Let's say you're a successful Black plumber and you work, and a lot of your clients are in this community where there's a high prevalence of violence. And there are young men there that that you can access to be able to help them become less of a statistic or less acceptable to the violence in the community. And you're a plumber, and you're trying to think of what can I do as a plumber to help these young men to stay out of the streets. Your answer is right in front of you. Teach them how to be plumbers. Be real with them, especially if you're a successful plumber. Let them know you make money. Don't show them your money. Don't take your money to the hood, but be real with them about the success of a plumber and teach them how to plumb. Give them a skill and then help them get opportunities. That'll work 100 times better than any rally, town hall, or anything else you do. I guarantee you.
But if your only tool is a hammer, then every situation, every solution has to look like a nail. And for some people, this is what they've invested in. And I'm gonna tell you the truth. A lot of people that put these rallies together are doing it from a self-serving perspective,
right?
Because they think turn them into some sort of celebrity. They want to be out here speaking, they want to be out here talking, and they want to be the one on the cameras. That's a lot of the reason why you have that, why it's the same situation over and over again. Now you have situations now where people are actually going out and they're doing peace treaties and mediating things, but you'll never hear about that in terms of happening in the streets. You also have, and this is what I go back to, the think tank, because the think tanks will tell you the best practices and the best solutions to go about, which ways to address the situations and the problem. Everybody else in the country uses think tanks but us. Our think tank is Twitter. Our think tank is YouTube. Our think tank is Instagram. Our think tank is Facebook. And the bottom line is, like, I like the solution you came up with, but a think tank would actually illustrate why it works. Right. A think tank would talk about, if you put tools in these children's hands, then, like, when I was a teenager, to get me off the streets, my grandfather had me come working at his auto garage. I felt like a man because I knew how to drop a motor into a car, and I know how to pop a trans into a car. Transmission. I gotta be careful. I gotta say the word transmission. That's what we are in society today. But you know what I'm saying? I know how to do an oil change, I know how to change brakes. You know what I'm saying? I could do an inspection, but I was able to do things, and I felt like a man because I'm sitting here with the jacking the cars up. I'm the one, I'm washing my hands the same way they wash their hands at the end of the day to get all the oil and all the yeah. Well, it wasn't even lava soap back then. It was straight gasoline. Man. Yeah. So when you deal with that, then all of a sudden the street is less appealing to you. I'm not saying there's no appeal, but I'm too busy working and I'm getting paid with this skill that I have. If I'd never went to college, at least I could have been a mechanic because I knew how to work on cars. So the things but that's what think tanks would talk about. Think tanks would talk about the importance of education, not just necessarily going to college, but getting certificate programs right now so that you can actually learn a skill similar to what you're talking about. A think tank would actually do a study and analyze the fact that, okay, we put more resources into this community instead of giving more resources to the law enforcement, then maybe we'll have different outcomes in these communities. Right. But we have to also understand something. We're not the designers, the social engineers of these communities. And because we live in them, we don't control them. We are the perfect example of this is the Stanford prison experiment. Because you took students who, in 1971, the cream of the crust, the cream of the crop type students at Stanford University, which is considered like the West Coast Ivy League. Right, Stanford, Cal Berkeley, UCLA, USC, all those high branch, all those colleges of upper crust, as they say. Right. After all, to go to USC, OJ wasn't black; he was OJ. So to speak of it, in those regards, the Stanford prison experiment took college students from Stanford who just wanted $15 to do this, $15 a day to do this experiment. Some were picked randomly to be the inmates, and some were randomly to be the COs. They had to stop a 10-day experiment in 5 days because these young people never experienced a day in the hood, never experienced a day living on the wrong side of the tracks or walking on the wrong side of the tracks. They mimic conditions that are comparable to what you found at Guantanamo Bay in the last 20 years. They got a lot of CEOs and military police officers arrested because of the action. They had actions that was comparable to that.
Hey.
It's the environment, and we've been talking about the whole show. The environment generates the outcome. Similar to when we go back to the 50s and the creations of the part of the New Deal, which presented housing projects, and at the same time you had simultaneously rat utopia and mouse utopia experiments where the environment was controlled and they had similar outcomes. And so even the rats and the mice had gangs.
Man, environment matters. But also, like, going into what we're talking about, adults who are in these communities who are afraid of the children in the community are part of the problem with the environment, especially the adults who've been there before those children showed up, who helped contribute to the degradation of the environment. The adults are part of the problem. The people make up the environment as well. They're part of this environment. They are a part of the problem. The people who don't pour back into the communities, you are a part of the problem, right? Because
let me speak to that for a second, Joe. I'm gonna let you finish, but let me speak to that. No, finish. I want you to finish. I want to speak to that.
Go ahead. No, go say what you got to say. Go ahead.
This is what I mean by weak men and women that are out of control.
See, okay? That's where I was gonna go, but you're saying it, so go ahead.
Sorry, bro. Because for all these gangsters in the communities, their women are typically like nurses. Their women are pharmacists, lawyers. Like, these women,
black women,
professional black women. But this is who they have children with.
Yep.
This is, if you look at the late rapper, rest in peace, King Von. People talk about the woman that mothers his children, right? And this woman has a career. This woman was in the military. This woman is like I don't know whether she's a nurse or whether she's a professional now. And this is what I'm talking about with this. So you create situations and circumstances where it produces this. It's in autopilot right now. So the men that are expected to be responsible come along too late in the game. The children, the teenagers by this time. So those men can't have an influence. Most children develop their personalities by the time they turn 5, and most definitely by the time they turn 7.
Well, one of the main problems is the men who are more capable or better men or better fathers, they're not the ones making all the babies.
They're not the ones being chosen.
No, I'm getting to that. I'm getting to that. Because yes, Gloctavius and them making all the babies because Gloctavius and them are who the women want. I work just this week. I've done 2 classes on college campuses. Shit, this month I've probably done 5 to 7 classes on college campuses. I'm always on college campuses. I'm always in young professional environments. Look, I know who these young girls are choosing. This is a part of the problem. This is a part of the reinforcement of the negative behaviors and the negativity when it comes to the black men. But also, we do need stronger black men. We need black men to stand up. We need black men to be better. But we also need black women to be better. When we have the statistics to show that most of the women who have babies by a small number of men. And then when we analyze the small number of men, we see that these men don't have the desired traits as far as to be able to produce capable children or even to produce healthier or safer environments. These women are producing with the men who more so contribute to the degradation of our communities, right? So, but at the same time, the men who don't have children, right? A lot of them, and it's not their at the end of the day, it's not their duty to raise these people's kids. But a lot of them are not necessarily pouring back into the community as well. Now, I'm not expecting them to pour back into somebody else's family like that, but I do see a communal effort. Like, I don't have any children. I don't have any children, but I do. I put the duty upon me and myself. I don't put it upon nobody else, but I put the duty upon me and myself to make sure I give back to my community in some kind of way through the skill sets that I have, going back to my plumber example. So I do think as men, I'm not going to charge it on nobody, but I do think as men, as Black people, as Black adults, we do have a obligation to pour back into our communities. But I don't think that those men have an obligation to raise somebody else's child. I think our women have to, they got to do better, and you got to stop making babies with the Glocktavius now.
Man, how many times are we gonna go through this example though? Every time we turn around and you talk to a woman who has 2 or 3 children, the first thing she'll say was, I was young. So the next generation say, I was young. And the third generation say, after a while, you just got to say you were reckless and you was careless. And at the time, you did not think about the potential consequences. There are women today with 2 and 3 children that are angry that men won't date them and take care of their children, throwing euphemisms like a real man would take care of another man's kids. Miss me with that bull. I know you got to write that down. Miss me with that. You know, because the bottom line is this: you have to break generational curses by actually breaking them.
Well, you got to put in the work.
There's a story that I read back in 1995, right? It was probably prior to that, but it was and I had to do it for one of my college courses, an undergrad. A young lady by the name of Kimber Smith. She went to a college down there somewhere in Virginia, HBCU, who ended up dating a drug dealer. And they try to pretend like she didn't know he was a drug dealer. But when you read her story, she knew he was a drug dealer. This dude from New York who was just hanging out on the campus. He had cars, he had jewelry, he had money, and he wasn't in any damn. He decided to take a class, but he wasn't in any classes. Turns out he got caught up in a ring where they had to run all the way across the country. She ended up getting caught in Seattle. She was about to testify against him, go state's evidence, but then he got murked. She ended up having to do a 28-year sentence. Her daughter was born while she was in jail. She was only able to get out because she was pardoned, one of those midnight pardons by Bill Clinton. Only reason she got out of jail because people sent were sending petitions, signing petitions for her to get out of jail. But that's the choices. Those are the choices. So if you want to change the way the circumstances of the situation is, then you got to listen. If you're a mother, mothers are the first teachers of culture. Okay. And the man you choose teaches you culture. So if the only culture you know is the Glocktavius culture, and you out on the block and your child is listening to all the gangster rappers and you have your little child twerking, like have you seen the birthday party for a 2-year-old? Have you seen the birthday party for a 2-year-old? The birthday party is not for the 2-year-old. It's a social gathering for the mother and her girlfriends and the parents and so forth. And the music that they listen to, the 2-year-old doesn't pick it up.
What? So I'm
not blaming just women, but I'm saying they play. So because we all take these conversations and talk about what the man's responsibility is, but it's a communal responsibility.
Everybody's at fault. I don't care what nobody say. Everybody's at fault. But if you are a woman with multiple children by multiple loser dudes, you fucked up. Let's just call it what it is. Now, just real quick, like I saw a video earlier where this young lady got pulled over by the police. She was pregnant, smoking. I guess she had just got through smoking the joint because the smell of weed in the car. She's pregnant. She's smoking the Black and Mild and got an open bottle of vodka in the car. And of course she gonna get arrested. And she's being unruly. But then as I'm watching, I'm looking at her behavior and she's pregnant. And I'm wondering, who got her pregnant? The dude pull up. And I'm just looking at him like, you got her pregnant, bro? You got her pregnant. You got, for real. So if you're doing that, how serious are you about making sure that things get better, that we have a brighter future? If you're having babies with people like this, like we got to understand how we contribute to the environment. Yes, once again, white supremacy is the root and architect of all of this, but it's up to us to fix it. But we have to be better to fix it. And we can't keep doing the same things over and over and over and having the same excuses and getting the same results and crying about the results that we get. Go ahead, Pat. Yeah. Yeah, that's all.
Another aspect of it, though, real quick, because I know Pat about to jump in. We gotta stop trying to save everybody. Everybody ain't worth. Listen, and when Noah made the ark, he didn't invite everybody to the ark.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? All the stories that that are told in the Bible. When the Hebrews was walking through the wilderness, only what 2-3 of them made it out of it. You know what I'm saying? You can't save everybody, and we got to stop trying to save everybody. Some people don't want to be saved. Listen, some people are perfectly fine with the vibrational frequencies that maintain standards, and we can't save them. We can't, and I'm tired of us wasting our time trying to. I'm listen. Pat said it. You get exhausted.
I'm with you.
And like a brother asked me the other day, a couple weeks ago. I'm sorry. Hey, brother, we're meeting with this people and we're meeting with that people. And this brother used to be a part of the Junior Black Mafia here in Philly. And turned his life around and he's doing community work, good work. But brother, I'm not going to all them damn meetings. I'm not going, but brother, we need it. No, we don't. I'll deal with you. I'm not dealing with the rest of these people who just want to gather and have meetings and committees and meetings and committees.
Get started.
The street. Well, the reason because nobody know what the hell they doing.
Yeah,
because you can't. You gotta have resources. Go ahead, Pat. I'm sorry.
No. I was agreeing with you. I think I think those of us that consider ourselves kindred spirits, like-minded, on a similar thought wave or pattern, because I don't want to use phrases like above or below, or sophisticated or complex. I don't want to use those terms.
People who think the same, basically.
Yeah, basically. I think we all need to collectively start playing a game of okay, now what? And that's how I know it started off with something I was just doing, but it's like really kind of blown outward. So, when I see when I see a Sharkeisha, like y'all was just talking about, girls wanting the Glocktavias.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Go get them. Like it don't, because if that's what you attracted to, I don't want to be with you anyways. So go get Glocktavias. And when you come and you start talking about black men ain't nothing, I understand. Because you talking about Glocktavias.
Right.
And I agree with you. I agree with you back before you were saying it. Matter of fact, I said it first. So, that's kind of my vibe on it. I'm just kind of like, all right. There's a certain, like PC was saying, and I'm just agreeing with it. There's a certain level of black folk.
You can't say it.
That's where they at. They on their level and they fine with it. And if you're not fine with it, then you're not on that level, because it don't take a lot to get off that level. All it takes is a simple mind change.
Well,
that's it.
Well, also too, I'm make sure I wrote this down to remind myself. Talking about environment and talking about making things happen rather than just talking. I often see in our comments, either on these breakdowns or maybe some of the book readings that I do, and we're talking about the issues within the community. And then somebody will say, yeah, well, we know what the problems is, but what are we going to do about it? And I'm always like, well, that lets me know you're not doing anything. That's a clear indication. You telling on yourself that you're not doing anything. Well, because we've said ad nauseum on this channel about different things that we do in the community. I do HIV/AIDS prevention, and I got my Black History School, and just playing out community work. Pat works with the kids in the community through private school, co-op school, track and field. PC works with the kids in this community, works with the community through various means, through boot camps, summer camps, just different showing up to community events, having kids on this front porch teaching them, just teaching kids, period. He's been teaching kids in the community for the longest. And so you just made me think about that as you were talking, because it's so many people that like to talk and like to say things. Because if you're a person who's complaining about the violence in the community, but you do nothing about it, shut up. You're not gonna do nothing. You're not, and you probably might show up to a rally, then go home, and then you forget about it. And you ain't doing nothing else. So let's go ahead and shut up. But the people who are always asking about, or who are always saying, okay, this is the problem, this is the problem, this is the problem, what do we do now? Well, why don't you ever have anything to add to that? Why don't you say, well, this is the problem, this is the problem, well, this is a solution that I've thought of? Why don't people ever do that? I know it's work. I know it's work, but
it's not even that it's work. I think what it is people don't really know what the problem is, and they're tired of trying to figure it out. And I'll give you an example, since this is an example show, right? Everybody's giving examples.
Go ahead, my friend.
I'm talking to somebody earlier, and they're talking to me about, somebody that's working with their child, and their child has a breakdown whenever they're challenged, and they get mad and they throw a temper tantrum. And the person that's working with their child says, well, they're doing that. That's a problem. And they're doing it because they have an issue with perfectionism. So if we fix that, then we'll be able to solve the issue of the temper tantrum. And it's like, no, that is not the core
can't
problem.
Figure it out, bitch. And they mad. It ain't really that deep.
Like that's not the root cause of why he's like, you can't say perfectionism. Well, why does he have perfectionism?
Right.
And so that second why, people aren't asking that. And so when you try to solve a problem based off the first why, you don't even really, most of them ain't even trying to solve a problem based off the first why. They're trying to solve a problem based off what? What is the problem? Well, you don't even know the why of the problem. So when you don't understand a problem, or overstand, if you're one of them people, then you can't come up with a solution. So the idea of a solution, the impossibility of it, frustrates you. So now you're not just frustrated about the conversation, you're frustrated because you don't know what to do in the conversation because somebody else already said what you wanted to say.
Sound about right.
That's where we are. Like, that's what we got going on. Because I do read the comments every 6 months. I'll go into the comments of a video and read it. Right. And I'm being generous because it's probably not every 6 months. It's probably like every 3 quarters. And I see the same thing every time. And I've been doing it for about the last, 2-3 years. We've been doing this thing. We've been rocking and rolling.
Yeah.
And Joe, you and I was doing it even before then.
Yeah.
As a duo.
Yeah.
So the comments never change, which lets me know that throughout all of this, people are still, and the wonderful part to me is everybody thinks that their comment is something that we haven't seen before.
Yeah. Yeah. You telling us something new. You saying something new. You came up with a new idea.
Groundbreaking.
Yeah. Right. Like, so it's and that's not the boo-boo on the audience. I love the fact that they feel comfortable enough in the space to share. Right. And those that do feel comfortable enough to share, hopefully they will engage in conversations with each other. That seldom happens. That will lead to some growth hint, hint.
Right,
What
but
we would like y'all to be doing in
yeah,
the comment section. What I
yeah.
would like y'all to be doing in the comment section.
But this is specific to the small group of people who always is all, you know, on the okay,
Right.
you all have mentioned the problem. What is the solution? And it's like,
Right.
well, how come you never follow up with, well, this is what I thought about?
Yeah, yeah. And great point, because we don't want to Obama you brothers, right? Like, we're not talking about all of you. We're talking about
Right.
a small group
Yeah.
of you brothers that we're convinced that you don't like the idea that you're listening to us and we're not listening to you.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's
Yeah.
bars.
I mean, but yeah. If we're being
Well,
real.
Well, I'm gonna be real for a second because
I love the rest of y'all though.
you know, cherry for the phone, you know. But listen, because right, a black code of social engineering that you can find at vpax.org, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so so people ask all the time, you know, which solutions have y'all done? So I'm going to go to number 3, the conservation of energy rule. These are, by the way, our code of conduct. Okay, make an effort to get involved with projects that generate collective statements regarding any issues that negatively impact Black communities. Okay, the second part is really important. So pay attention, guys, boys and girls. All right, ladies and gents. We spend far too much time duplicating work and making duplicate statements. Before you get involved with any project or in making any statement, see if someone else has already fully conveyed or established what you are looking for. If they have, then divert your energy to something else. 2, fish restaurants side by side will eventually run each other out of business. So, and that speaks to, because a lot of times we do have people working, but the left hand don't know what the right hand's doing, and then the left hand starts competing with the right hand.
That's another problem. Everybody want to be famous.
But this is why I talk about the importance of think tanks and being organized, because it feels so insurmountable, because a lot of us are trying to do the same thing. Well, the ones who are still trying. But we're not working together in a collaborative effort in an organized manner. You're up against an organized enemy. And your enemy is so organized that they have think tanks for their think tanks. You can't go, it's like saying, I'm going to go to war with America and all I got is my sidearm with a limited amount of ammunition.
By yourself.
And I'm going to go to war with this whole in the country itself.
By yourself.
Right. And that's what we're literally doing every time you do it, because if you get into some trouble, it's the United States of America versus Mr. Smith.
But that's why our communities being in the conditions that they're in is such a great disadvantage to us, and we're continuously putting ourselves at a disadvantage of not being in a position to clean up our communities, to do better in our communities, especially the lower income communities. So much talent have been, another fact that so much talent have been taken out of the communities, and so many people are disillusioned about these communities. So many misconceptions about the community. I challenge a lot of people who want to go help the inner, if you want to go help the lower income inner city communities, before you do anything, before you try to help them in any kind of way, just go hang out and establish yourself and gain people's trust and talk to people, gather information and see what they need. See how you can best help them. I guarantee you that'd be better than the rally. Guarantee that'd be more effective than the rally, because now you're getting their voice about what they're experiencing on a regular basis. Because if you live in a community that's away from the violence, you have no idea. You have no, if you've never went to bed every night, the gunshots, you have no idea. And that was me, and I was just down the street, and I have no idea. I have no idea what it is to live in that, like right there. I was just down the street, But what I did do as a community worker is get into the community and go humble myself and ask questions and not act like I have all the answers, because clearly we don't have the answers, because the marches and the rallies and everything else not working. Right now we're talking, but that's how we do better at cleaning up our own environments. White people, white supremacy, not going to clean up nothing. Their job is to continue to mess it up. It's our job to clean it up. It's our job to think outside the box. It's our job to come up with solutions. An easy solution to help these communities is just start with what you know. Teach people what you know. Help people get opportunities. If you don't even have a skill set, but you're good at helping people get jobs, that's your skill. Go help people get jobs. Do something constructive. And stop trying to be famous. But the violence in our community not going to stop until we stop it at the end of the day. Remember, white supremacy benefits from our degradation. White supremacy benefits from us being violent against each other. White supremacy benefits from us with the no snitch rule. White supremacy benefits from being able to have these poor rundown communities so they can buy them out, gentrify them, and make more money off of them while we are out on the streets. We all seeing it in our own cities. We're seeing it in our cities. We have to do more than just shake our head. You gotta do more than just ride by and just complain about it and talk about it. What tangible items, what tangible actions are you doing to help improve your community? So, hey, Joseph Ward, Patrick Irvin, Professor Carl Tone Jones, we out this piece.